Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. On today's broadcast, a conversation with Marc Fitch, the investigative reporter from the Yankee Institute for Public Policy, and the impact COVID-19 has on the legislative process.
That's true. I mean, and we've even had some lawmakers actually, or at least one lawmaker tested positive for the virus. So, yeah, everything is on hold for the time being. Kind of the word of mouth rumor is that when they do come back into session, I don't think they're going to be bringing people actually into the Capitol to debate or vote or anything like that. They're going to cherry pick some important pieces of legislation, most likely having to do with the budget, because this is supposed to be a budget fixing year. And they're going to have a lot of fixing to do because nobody was expecting this kind of economic downfall. So, yeah, I mean, they're probably going to, the leaders will come in and say, all right, we're going to pass these, a few pieces of legislation here. And I don't know how they'll conduct the vote. Everything is so up in the air right now because we've never dealt with anything like this. So I assume they could do some kind of, call-in vote or something like that. But as far as legislation getting passed, I mean, other than some budget issues, I don't see anybody's pet projects going very far this year because we're in a state of emergency. We're in a state of crisis, and right now the state's finances are going to end up being in free fall, and our costs are going to be skyrocketing with the layoffs and the economic downturn. So, yeah, I mean, we're in uncharted waters, I can tell you that.
It certainly seems like the state of Connecticut and its citizens never are able to catch a break, because anytime anyone thinks that we all might be turning a corner, not that I'm suggesting that we were anywhere in that situation, but if we thought we could, then something like this comes along. And it shakes up the whole table. It's like someone bumping the table while people are playing a board game and all the pieces go flying.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, we do have to look at it in perspective. Everybody knew a recession was coming. We'd experienced a 10-year bull market, one of the longest, upward runs since World War II. So everybody knew the recession was in the works somewhere, but nobody suspected that it was going to be like this, and where we have, a good chunk of the economy closed down. We have, we had 100,000 people file for unemployment in 1 week. The highest that they ever had during the 2008 recession was like 13,000. So that puts it in perspective. This came very hard, it came very fast, and it's going to be very, very expensive. And when the revenue numbers start coming into the state, it's going to be very, very ugly. We get a huge chunk of revenue through the income tax, and especially income tax from the financial sector. All the hedge fund guys, people making money off capital gains, all of that is going to be bad. And so we're going to be looking at a big revenue slide. And now, to Governor Ned Lamont's credit, he refused to touch that rainy day fund, and thank God, because we're going to be needing it. We have about $2.5 billion in the rainy day fund right now. That puts us in a much better spot than we were in 2008 when we only had about $1.5 billion. So, that's going to come in handy, and because nobody can really estimate how bad this is going to be. I mean, you have. There's going to be higher costs associated with pension returns. There's going to be higher costs for unemployment, for Medicaid payouts, and all of that coupled with lower sales tax revenue, lower income tax revenue, delaying, tax filings, everything like that. So it's going to be a mess. And, we're lucky that we have the backstop that we do now. I don't know if that's going to get us out of all our trouble, but it's a good step in the right direction, and it's good that we have it.
Well, it certainly occurred to me that it was perhaps a fair concept that the filing dates would be pushed back from their normal dates on the calendar because of the current COVID-19 situation. But a follow-up to that thought for me is, what does that do to the cash flow going into the state of Connecticut if people are not required to file and get their payments in on the same old schedule and it moves down the road? Does that cause any material injury to the state's economy or to the state government's ability to function because that cash flow has shifted back?
Well, I mean, yes, it is going to affect their ability to function, and this is once again where we have the backstop of the rainy day fund, because putting off the tax filing date. I mean, that was so that businesses and people could try to get by a few more weeks or a few months, hopefully, in the hopes that this situation will resolve itself. But frankly, looking forward, it doesn't look like there's any cure on the horizon just yet, and we could be talking months. So the state of Connecticut has to prepare to kind of hunker down itself and figure out what to do, because you're not going to have the income tax revenue coming in on its usual schedule, and the tax revenue that does come in is going to be much less than you thought it was going to be. So they've suspended some sales tax payments. I do not envy the bean counters at the Capitol right now, because there's so many different things in play. And not only that, but you have this huge swath of the population now out of work and not looking like they're going to be getting back to work, anytime soon. We're getting help from the federal government, but that's, the stimulus payments that are going to people, you might get $1,200 to $1,500 or something like that, and if you're out of work, that's a Band-Aid over a bullet hole.
Yeah, it evaporates pretty quickly when the absolute must-have necessities get cared for.
Exactly, and the state itself is going to need a lot of help from the federal government. We just got approved for FEMA money.
Right.
Connecticut was considered a disaster at this point. And so that's going to help pay 75% of state agency costs associated with handling the coronavirus. But we also need help with our unemployment payments, and the White House is still considering that, because coming into this pandemic, we only had about half the amount in our unemployment trust fund that we would need to handle an economic downturn. And that's just your average, ordinary economic downturn. That's not something that's come so hard and so fast where you have so many people out of work so quickly. So, hopefully we will get that help from the federal government, because, otherwise the payments, the unemployment payments, are going to dry up kind of quick, and, we'll have to start bonding to, be able to pay people week to week.
What has this pandemic, in your view, here in Connecticut at least, done toward the perception of residents, voters, people who are interested in the government that runs things, because the legislative action has been stifled because of the situation? I'm unsure as to how it might affect people's perception of the legislature, other than the fact that they got together and said, okay, we need to hand over power to the governor so that he can do what he has to do. And I think they rightly so did that. And I think, this has been, it's unfortunate that it has to come this way, but this has been Governor Lamont's moment. He is doing a great job by everybody's, standard, and he's done so, cautiously, and he's done so, without overstepping some bounds that you've seen in, places like Rhode Island, per se, and he's done so much more magnanimously than, say, the New York governor has done so. Thank you very much, sir, and good talking to you. We'll be in touch again.
Thank you, Paul.
For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of the station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS, Middletown.